What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of HBCU Huddle. I, of course, am CJ Hurt, joined alongside by my man, Mike Wallace. Mike, how's everything going, man?
Hey, man, it's going, man. We're in the middle of it. Hey, this is my favorite time of the year, man, because there's so much going on. Football is right around the corner. You see the practices going on, a lot of news happening, schedules being released, all of these kind of things, man. So I'm looking forward to another packed show. These last few HBCU huddles is taking it from one level all the way to another level, and we came in at a pretty good level to begin with.
Absolutely, absolutely. We got a great show, like you said, jam-packed. We got North Carolina A&T's financial impact. We've got news out of Lemoyne about Bonzi Wells' tenure coming to an end. We're going to be making preseason predictions, going on the record, making our predictions for the preseason, including conference champions, Deacon Jones winners, and so much more. But first, Mike, Monday, the Southern Heritage Classic tickets went on sale, and let me tell you, I was super excited. I'm almost there. This is, like you said, my favorite time of the year. Also, not only are we close to the football season, but there's so much hope. Everybody has the potential. Everybody from Mississippi Valley State to Alcorn State, from Bethune-Cookman to Howard, everybody has the potential to win their conference and show up either in the FCS playoff or the D2 playoffs or the Celebration Bowl. There's hope for everybody out there right now, and I love it.
There's hope, yeah. There's hope. I don't know how far hope is going to go for some of those teams. But yeah, nobody's lost the game yet. Nobody's lost the game.
Exactly. Everybody's undefeated.
Yeah, everybody's undefeated. Everybody had a great spring. Everybody had a good opening week to fall camp practices, and students are starting to arrive on campuses now, and you're starting to feel that energy, man. I remember, I'm not going to name the year, but I remember my first fall going into college at Grambling State University, man, just the energy in the place where everybody is somebody. You hear the band on one end of the campus practicing. You hear the crash of the helmets in the pads when the football team is practicing on the other side of campus. The weather's still great. You know, there's still people checking into their dorms, so you're able to post up on the yard and see what the scenery looks like.
The scenery, Mike.
That's what I'm saying. Scenery and back then we used to have our little black notebooks, man. So we would take numbers down on the notebook.
Oh.
Now everybody shifts to these. So if you got somebody's social media tags, you can hit them that way. But wow, what a month August was on HBCU campuses as it all comes together.
Jacob points out my workplace Slay notebook would be perfect for grabbing a couple of Honey's numbers. Like I said, the Southern Heritage Classic tickets went on sale Monday. It's the 34th Southern Heritage Classic. We'll talk more about Arkansas Pine Bluff and Tennessee State here in a little bit. But just so you guys know, you can go to the Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium box office. It's open Monday to Friday, 10 to 6. And this is very, very important, except for Labor Day is closed. That's one important thing. And the second important thing is it's cash only. So have cash on hand when you go up there and you can get your tickets. And speaking of two teams with hope right now, Arkansas Pine Bluff and Tennessee State. Mike,
hold up, man.
What happened?
Hold up, man.
What happened?
How are we doing business in 2023 as cash only, bro? Hold up, man. Hey, we love Fred. We're gonna have Fred on the show, pretty soon as we lead up. We're gonna have Tennessee State.
I think the next show we'll have Mr. Jones on.
Yeah, Mr. Jones, and then Arkansas State too. We're gonna have a lot of people from both sides represented. But bro, hold up, man. It's 2023. You can be going cash only. You know what I'm saying? Cash only at the box office. You got to be able to get an app or something, man. So look, the people got to be able to go to Southern Heritage Classic on social media. Find them some kind of way, man. There's got to be an easier way to get these tickets than cash one and standing in line at Simmons Bank Stadium, bro.
The Southern Heritage Classic is my favorite time of the year in Memphis. And I go and I buy my tickets every single year. We've talked a couple of those years like, hey, don't do anything. We'll have you a pass. Like, no, Mike, I'm not going to be a professional at all in the least. I need to go and buy my tickets and sit far away from respectable people. I need to be down there with the commoners so I can yell and chant and sing the songs with everybody else. So I buy my tickets every single year since I was there when the storm came through and the game got canceled. I was trapped inside at the time. It was Liberty Bowl Memorial Stadium. I was trapped on the inside, couldn't get through the crowd to get out. So I've been that year and all the years since. So I think from like 2018 till now, I've been at every single Southern Heritage Classic. And Mike, every single time, it throws me for a loop when I go into the box office. Like, oh, wait. Oh, that's right. Y'all are cash only. And so I go into the box office thinking, okay, I'm about to in, pay my money and get my tickets. Like, oh, we're cash only. It's like, oh, okay. I'll be back tomorrow. I have to go to the bank, get the cash out, and then make the payment that way. You can do, I'm pretty sure Ticketmaster also. And they're a sponsor, so I'll refrain from my complaint about Ticketmaster. Just know if they weren't a sponsor, I would say those fees get you. Those fees come out to be about as much as another ticket. So I always go to the box office, but you can also do Ticketmaster as well.
I digress.
Digress to regress to progress.
Yeah, I know we weren't planning on spending, a segment talking about cash only.
But Mike, you know how we're here now. That's what this is. This is a HBCU sports and culture podcast, and we're here and we're dabbling without getting into the culture part on this conversation. Let's just get into the culture part of the conversation. Certain black-owned establishments, Mike, you got to pay with cash. They don't have the card machine. Like that's just what it is. Like we had a place in Tuskegee called the Coop, and I'm pretty sure the Coop was 100% cash. Great chicken, great soul food spot. It was phenomenal. But you went in there and you knew, okay, my meal is going to cost, and it's better for you to have exact change because in some of these establishments, they might not have the change ready. The food is always good, though. The times that are had in those types of establishments are always a world of fun. But that was our spot. In Tuskegee, you knew if you went to the Coop, leave your card at home, just bring your cash, I think my meal would always be like $8.57. So I made sure to have $8.57 on me so I could go in, get my wings and my fries and be out. So that was our spot. You know how it is, Mike. You know how we do in the neighborhood.
I know. That same spot that was at Tuskegee, it was called Tasty's Chicken at Grambling. So, you know what I mean? Tasty's was right on the corner, you know what I'm saying? And they, as the saying used to go, and your boy Bibbins used to say this, he knows it, and we talked about it. You're not a true Grambling student unless you failed a class, had Tasty's Chicken, and got caught with a chick outside doing some inappropriate things.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So all three of those things made you a certified Grambling student, man. And as Bivens told you, you know what I mean? He ain't never failed a class, but he definitely with the other two. So,
there was a post going around, Mike, with for Tuskegee alums, how Tuskegee are you? And I should have sent it for this show. I'll send it for next week's show. And I was nervous. I looked at it. I was like, ooh. I don't know if I'm super Tuskegee because, I was a wallflower, so to speak. I just at my dorm and went to class, and I took that quiz and was like, oh, no, I got 16 of these 20. I'm at 80%. I'm in there. I'm good. I'm super Tuskegee. Got to go to the Coop. You got to sit under the shed. You got to hang out in Chappie James Arena. Like there's a list of things that you need to be able to do, and it's great that everybody has that experience at their alma mater, specifically at HBCUs.
Yes, no doubt about it, man. And you know what? As we transition to, this is the time of year where parents are going to be dropping their kids off on campuses. Freshman year, first time that students are going to be able to have that taste of independence. So, prayers up, safety's up to the families, to the parents, and the aspiring HBCU students. Safety and a great semester to those who are going to be starting or who may have already started. I know we're going to be dropping my stepson off at college tomorrow, and he's not going to HBCU, but he and his mother are going to be experiencing that for the first time. So I know it's a lot of that going around, man, and hopefully everybody has a strong semester. Keep those grades up, and try not to drop too many classes, man. And hey, the first refund check is right around the corner.
What was your first day on campus like? What was you stepped on the campus? Did your parents get to go with you, or were you just there on your own?
Man, we had a caravan,
Okay.
coming down from DC. This was the early 90s, you know what I'm saying? And, I was the first one to go that far away from home, from Washington, DC, all the way to Grambling, Louisiana. So, it was about 14, 15 of our relatives. We took a 2-day trip, drove all the way across. And by the time we got to Grambling, that's when it got emotional, because when my mom and my grandmother set up my room for me. Got my linens and all of those kind of things. All the things.
The linens.
Yeah, we're judgmental of the other dorms and everything, and they was like, man, PBS Pinchback looked like, it was brand new. But Drew Hall was the hood. It was the straight hood. Drew Hall was right behind us. So, and PBS Pinchback was just opening up, man. So we got a chance to move into a brand new dorm. Spent that first night, my family was there in a hotel in nearby Ruston. And then the next day, it was all good. We kissed and said goodbye. They went on and drove from Grambling to Dallas to do some family stuff, and then they headed back to DC after that. But yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday almost, man. And going to that first financial aid office line.
Be patient with the financial office.
Registering for classes and flirting with the chicks, who were already there. The upperclassmen. I mean, it was. Hey, look, we had our numbers, man. I had a nice book of numbers that first day, so I remember how that was, man. It was pretty cool. It was nice.
Advice for parents dropping their kids off, because you've done both.
Been on both sides.
You've been on both sides. I have only been on the student side of this. And any advice for? We'll go both. Giving me one thing that you would tell young Mike Wallace as he waves goodbye to his family, or as he's spending the last moments with his family before they go, and what would you say to the families who are leaving their children, the precious ones, the ones that are going to that you protected for so long, that are going to come out of this university as leaders in the community? What would you say to both of those types of people?
Well, in honor of the 50th anniversary of hip hop, I got to borrow a line from my man Pete Rock and CL Smooth. What I would tell young Mike Wallace is use your condoms, take sips of the brew when they reminisce over you, right? When it's your turn, right? You got to be able to make some smart decisions to protect yourself, protect your body, protect your mind, and protect, everything else. And I'll just leave it at that, because it's going to be a lot of temptations. It's going to be a lot of things coming at you in a fast way. You're not going to have your parents there to pull you out of trouble. So when you get in, you're really going to be dealing with your own consequences for the first time. So that's what I would tell, the students. I would tell young Mike Wallace that, man, don't make forever decisions as a freshman. Like, take your time. Don't take out all these credit cards and all this kind of stuff. But as a parent, since I've seen it on the other side too, I kind of know how to pull back a little bit. You know what I mean? So, when my twins were going to college for the first time, my daughter went to Howard, my son went to Memphis, University of Memphis. And my wife at the time, my late wife, I remember kind of pulling her back from being too parenty and too motherly, because they want their space when they get on that yard. You know what I mean? When they get on the campus for the first time. So, as me and my wife now, as she's taking her son, I'm like, look, go ahead and do the room, do this, do that. Give them his space, but also understand that there's going to come a time where you're going to have to let go and trust the way that you raised them, right? That doesn't mean that they're going to be perfect when you leave them, but just trust what you instilled in your kid when they get to college, because now they're going to be facing those tests and those quizzes on their own on how to get through life. So, let go, but obviously it's going to be an emotional time, but just know to give them their space and work with them through their issues as opposed to trying to control it all.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I would say, as the one that's been dropped off, not the one doing the dropping off. Just tell everybody you love them, man.
Yeah.
Like that just let them know. Let them know, hey, I love you and I appreciate everything you've done. That's it. Now, once you do that, it might be some ugly crying going on. It might be, because it's tough saying goodbye. It is, but you'll get to see them again. You'll see them. There's Parents Weekend in October, probably. You'll see them Thanksgiving break, Christmas break. You'll be back. They'll see you. You'll see them. It'll be all good. Shout out to all those parents and families dropping off kids on HBCU campuses, and shout out to those HBCU students, future HBCU alums, as they begin their journey through college and to being better people. Real quick, Mike, Bonzi Wells' time at LeMoyne ends. That was a hell of a tangent. We were off on for 8 minutes. But Bonzi Wells' time at LeMoyne ends. 2 seasons, 23-16 record in the SEAC, 34-22 overall. He accepted a new role as assistant coach at Georgia Tech, where Damon Stoudemire, former teammate of Bonzi's up in Portland, where he is now the head coach. He said in a statement, quote, "I'm extremely grateful for my Lamorne Owen College and my athletics director, William Anderson. He gave me such a great opportunity." Mike, when you see this happen for Bonzi Wells, this opportunity opened up for Coach Bonzi Wells at Georgia Tech, and for Lamorne Owen losing Bonzi Wells, where do you think the Magicians go from here?
You know what? First of all, man, Bonzi is a friend of our show, friend of HBCU Huddle. He's done some great things with Grind City Media. He's been on our platform many a times, and I had a chance to host some panels with him, especially during the MLK weekend events that we do annually. And what he always told me was that Lamorne was a tough job, but he was glad that was one of his first jobs with him being in control of a program, because he had to learn how to do a little bit of everything. He had to recruit, he had to coach, he had to parent, he had to be a financial advisor to these kids. He had to get the academics straight and actually register kids for classes before. So he had to put his hands on everything when it came to what you got to do at a school like Lamorne. But he also did something great. I mean, in 2 seasons, he had a winning record, and he was comfortably winning some games there. He knew how to talk to these kids about life on and off the court. And it's such a remarkable thing to be teaming back up again with Stoudemire at Georgia Tech. And I love that staff. It reminds me a lot of what Stackhouse was able to kind of try to do at Vanderbilt. There's some challenges playing in the SEC to that degree. But Damon Stoudemire deserved the job long before he got this one. I'm pulling for him to do great things at Georgia Tech in the ACC. And having a guy like Bonzi who knows how to recruit and get out there in that Atlanta area, man, they're going to be a place to watch and be entertaining. So shout out to Bonzi. Lamorne is going to replace him and do some other good things. But that was a great opportunity that happened at the right time, and now he gets to move on from that.
And it was just an opportunity that made sense. Like that is a teammate, and more than just being teammates. They seem to be like real good friends and almost familiar brothers, so to speak. So wish Bonzi Wells all the best, wish Georgia Tech all the best, and absolutely we wish Lamorne Owen all the best, except for when they play Tuskegee. Speaking of Tuskegee, we got a great pick 6. We did our preseason predictions for Celebration Bowl, for Deacon Jones Trophy, winners of each of the Black football conferences. Let's start with mine real quick. We're going to run through them, and then we'll get into the discussion portion on the other side. My Celebration Bowl pick: FAMU versus North Carolina Central. SWAC championship will be FAMU versus Texas Southern. The CIAA champs, I took Virginia Union. SEAC champs, of course, I took Tuskegee. Why not? I didn't think anybody would make a playoff appearance at the FCS level. My Deacon Jones Trophy winner for best black college football player is Jeremy Musa. If we look at Mike has the Celebration Bowl, FAMU, North Carolina Central, SWAC championship game, FAMU versus Alcorn State. CIAA champs, Virginia Union. SEAC champs, Fort Valley State. North Carolina A&T makes the FCS playoffs for Mike, and his Deacon Jones winner is Sonny Anderson, defensive lineman for Grambling State. We'll take a quick break, and on the other side, we're going to hear Mike Wallace talk to Sonny Anderson live from SWAC Media Days. Next up on HBCU Huddle.
Topic number 1, I think, was not so creative.
Okay.
And it is the new color of this eggplant retro foam.
Okay.
I was going to bring the actual original in, and I forgot.
Well, we have a picture of the original, too. If we could go to that second. Okay. Okay. The Sneak Fest Show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
I be in a loop, she be in a group. Brody with her friend, throwing alley-oop. Turn something to nothing, bro, I'm living proof. How can I lose when we the who's?
My dad would take me out after on Saturdays when I was like 3 or 4. He'd take me out and then he'd give me an Orange Julius milkshake and I'd head home. And it was like the greatest thing on earth.
One of our locals, Rachel Heck, when I took my daughter out to play with her, she said, make sure you ask your dad to take you for ice cream after every time you play golf.
The Chris Vernon Show, presented by Caesars Sportsbook, live weekdays at noon on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Yeah, hold up, park the Rose truck. Why not pull up Lambo car and pop it with the doors up? This got colossal, I got models trying to pay me to tell her the price then went up. It's gonna cost more than a buck. Know that shit gonna be high, it got my name on this chronic. Driving slow now, but this car goes 0 to 60 if I punch it. She wake up and munch it, let me put.
Welcome back in to the HBCU Huddle, Grind City Media. Download the Grind City Media all-new app for all of our content. We're at SWAC Media Day, joined by Grambling State star pass rusher, SWAC first team all-conference, probably the conference's top NFL prospect as well, Sundiata Anderson. Yeah, it's an honor to be with you. I know how big this season is for you. I know you guys want to really reestablish yourselves in the SWAC and in HBCU football. Just what is the mindset going in to this season with you elevating to a leadership position now?
I would say the mindset is just, leading my team to be better than themselves in the previous past. Compete every day, be 1% better. And so just being able to prove that and then lead by example. I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna be early, I'm gonna stay after. So for next generations and on, I'm leaving my legacy, and they got the key to know what it takes to go ahead and make it to the NFL, hopefully.
What were some of the things that you learned, the biggest painful lessons that you learned from last season, and things that you can say, we can't let this happen again?
I would say forgive but never forget. You want to let last season go, and that's when I say forgive. You want to come to terms with it, but you don't want to forget every team that did what they did to you, or you don't want to forget that what made last season happen. The main thing is history repeats itself, so don't let it. And so hopefully we definitely fix that this year.
Last season, your stats spoke for themselves. I mean, you were one of the leaders in the nation in FCS in tackles for loss, almost 9 sacks. What is it about your game that makes you effective? Obviously, you have the size, the length, the speed, the athleticism. What is it that strikes fear in offensive tackles when they see you on the other side?
I'm going to say my instinct and relentlessness. I'm playing 4 quarters, 60 minutes a game, and my instincts just allows me to be where the ball is. And so I believe that is what makes offensive tackles really hate playing me.
All right, I got a couple more for you, man. I got to ask this. I'm a Grambling guy. Went to Grambling. I was at Grambling in the 90s. Kendrick Nord was the quarterback. We were racking up yards. You know what I'm saying? Eddie Robinson was the coach in there. We had some big-time players. And then when you look at the legacy of this program, it hurt my heart, man, as a GSU guy, to see the G come off the helmet, right? That came off the helmet. What was that like as a player to experience that, and how did you guys know that, okay, this isn't right, we need to get this right to get it back and start playing with that pride again?
See, the outside world might not have understood what it meant, but as a player, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. We learned our lesson. We don't want to disappoint our past generations and our past and the legacy that they built by allowing something like that to happen. And we was on the road to, nothing less than greatness. And so you don't never want to be on that road. So I appreciate that happening because it allowed us to, figure out as a team we got to be better, and not just for ourselves, for everybody that came here before us.
All right, a couple changes to the roster, and as I get you out of here, as an anchor of that defensive unit, what has to happen for you guys to get back to the SWAC championship and possibly to a national championship when it comes to playing with that tenacity, restoring what was there before, and getting it back? How important is that this year?
I would say super important, especially it being my last year. It's my last year being able to make an impact. And so I just want to show the younger people that, if you stay disciplined and you do the right things, it'll take you where you need to be. I believe in working, so as long as you work your way out of the situation, you win.
All right, man, from one G to another, Thank you. Thanks a lot, Sandiata. I appreciate it, man. Good luck this season. And I'll be there watching you guys, man. And I want to see that G come back to where it's supposed to be at, man. See you guys in the SWAC championship game.
Sir, see you in the SWAC championship.
Right.
Celebration Bowl.
Celebration Bowl.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
man. Thanks, man. All right.
That was Mike's interview with Sundiata Anderson. Mike, he is very composed, and that was one of the things that stood out to me when talking to him off camera at SWAC Media Days, is just how composed and how ready for the big moments he feels like he is right now.
I mean, it's going back and looking at the interview, it's one of those things where, I wanted to bring a little bit of his personality out. He's not a guy that really is completely comfortable in interview settings. So you try to make it as smooth and comfortable for him as possible. But two things jumped out. When we talked about that G coming off the helmet, he just went right into who he was. You saw him. You saw, the apology almost kind of come out of him. You saw, hey, we can't be like this because of the past generations and legacies of guys that played at Grambling and went through Grambling. And I felt a personal connection for him because, I that was my school. That was my team. That was my time too. And, to see him take pride in that, I'm wishing for nothing but the best. When you see him on the football field, I saw him against Arkansas State, and I've seen him a couple of different times on TV as well. But I saw him in person. He's an impressive guy physically. He knows how to get to the football. Nobody can stay in front of him. And when we're talking about HBCU players who are going to be number one candidates for the Deacon Jones Award, he's going to be on front of that. But also in the NFL combines, he's going to test really well if he stays healthy. And he could be the next guy that makes an impact from an HBCU going into the NFL. So I'm looking for big things from Sundiata Anderson, not just because he's a Grambling brother of mine, but because I think he truly is a special, unique talent as a player in this game.
Let's run through our pick sixes one by one and just talk about them for a quick moment, because that's how you ended your pick six, was with Sundiata Anderson winning the Deacon Jones Trophy, which I about dropped my computer screen when I saw that. I was like, whoa. Not only is he not a quarterback, and usually that award is going to the quarterback, but he's on the defensive side of the ball. We don't even get a whole lot of those types of guys nominated for that. So let's just throw them up. Let's start with Mike's. Mike, you have FAMU, North Carolina Central. Why did you have that matchup for the Celebration Bowl?
Real quick, FAMU comes in with a 9-game winning streak, longest winning streak in HBCU football. They were hot. They got their 2 losses out the way in the first 2 weeks last season. They ran the table after that, but they just fell behind Jackson State back-to-back seasons. I think this is their season for a breakthrough. Willie Simmons is going to get them there. And I don't see anybody standing in front of North Carolina Central getting back to the Celebration Bowl. So that's why those two are going to be there.
It's hard to see anybody between North Carolina Central and the Celebration Bowl. South Carolina State, they cycle. They get you in, and then they get you developed, and in 3 or 4 years, that team is ready. But it's like once every 3 or 4 years. They got to get that new crop ready to go. But maybe South Carolina State bucks a trend and gets up there, and they're ready to go right now. Howard is somebody to keep an eye on in the MEAC as well. But when you're Trey Oliver and you had a 10-2 season last year, they ended the season ranked. They were ranked most of the season when you look back at it, and they start the season ranked. You've got both the offensive players of the year preseason wise in the MEAC and defensive and Davius Richards, and the defensive player of the year and Khalil Baker, cornerback for the Eagles. On top of that, we haven't mentioned, and we don't give him, I think, enough credit, Latrell Collier at running back. When you look at the all-purpose yards, what he can do specifically running and catching the ball out of the backfield, 5th most all-purpose yards at the HBCU level. I think he had about 1,200 all-purpose yards, about 800 or so on the ground, and an additional 300 or so through the air. When you have that type of weapon on offense to go with Davius Richards and what he does, and a defense that is pretty damn good as well, it's hard for me to see anybody knocking them off. And then FAMU was mine also, because I think they win the SWAC. Jeremy Musa and that offensive line specifically, I think, are just too much for most SWAC opponents. Next up for Mike, you have the SWAC championship game, and we differed here on the SWAC championship game. You have Alcorn State getting in from the West. What makes you so confident about Coach Fred McNair and those young men's down there?
Yeah, hey, CJ, really, it was when I saw you two guys together at SWAC Media. You brought the best out of him. He brought the best out of you. And I'm like, man, why am I going to bet against this guy, right? We think Southern's ready to take the next step in the West. We think, Prairie View can ready to take the next step. But what do we know? We know the most consistent team year in and year out in that side of the division is always Alcorn State, and I'm just not going to bet against him. He's got the best running back in the league. The transfer from Syracuse coming in, that's a 1,000-yard back right there. You heard him on our show last week, and I just think it's one of those deals where when you give Fred some talent and some time and lower expectations, he's going to exceed them. That's why I got them in the championship game there.
Next up, you said that you have the CIAA winner as Virginia Union. What made you go with them there?
Just, again, it speaks to that continuity that they have there. They run the football well. The defense has come along strong. They don't allow teams to score points. And when you can run the ball and then stop teams defensively on the other side of the line of scrimmage, you're pretty good. And not a lot of teams in the SIAC can do that on both sides. CIAA, I'm sorry. CIAA, Virginia Union is probably the most balanced that we see. In the post-Bowie State dominant era, Virginia Union is the most balanced team we see.
And even during the Bowie State dominance, you knew, okay, Virginia Union is one of the ones who might have something to say about Bowie State this season. They didn't ever get over that hump, but they were always like right there. And Byers is just a tater-toter, and you know I love me a good tater-toter. Your SEAC champ disappointed me, Mike. Fort Valley State. Just why? Why do you like to hurt me? Why do you like to see me hurting as a Tuskegee fan?
I just wasn't cool with your coach, man. I know why he felt he needed to come in and then build the program from the top, from an administrative level. I wanted one more year of him being on the sidelines to really, really put his system in. We'll see if they can have that kind of consistency and build on what they had last year. Tuskegee was really strong, but I think Fort Valley State, they just do something different down there. I was going to go with Albany State and my boy Quinn Gray, but they're having some problems out the gate. Fort Valley State is one of those teams that always seems to be lurking and ready to step forward.
Benedict won it last year, and they looked dominant in doing so. Do you think they fall in the championship game? They lost a lot?
They lost a lot. Yeah, their roster, we were talking to Donald Ware at SWAC Media Day, and he said they bring a couple of guys back from that team that basically ran the table. But they lost a lot, and they got to replace it. And this is sort of a rebuild year for Benedict. But they should have something to say in the race. But we'll see. We'll see for sure.
FCS playoff team, you said it was going to be North Carolina A&T. Why do you think that they get the job done and they jump into the FCS playoffs this year?
Well, they switched conferences for the third time now. They were in the MEAC a few years ago, the CAA, and the Big South, and now the CAA. So they're finally getting their roots now in a new conference. This is where they wanted to be. I think this is the time now where, you replace your coach, Sam Washington, in controversial fashion. You go through last year and you still almost make the playoffs. It took the final week of the regular season for you not to make it. And I think you go into a conference now knowing who you are and knowing what you're about. And I think they start to restore that legacy this year.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then last but certainly not least, you have Sonny Anderson as your player of the year. It was a great interview from him, talking to the Grambling State guys that were down there for SWAC Media Days. It's weird to me, and I think it's weird to everybody, that Hugh Jackson, this great offensive mind, the strength of this team for Grambling is absolutely unequivocally going to be that defense. And talking to them about how practices go, and sometimes you get a situation where one side of the ball is much better than the other side of the ball, and how frustrating it can be, and seeing the defensive guys' eyes light up like, yeah, we make Coach real mad at times. It's great. I love to see it, but I think that's an interesting pick. That's a good pick to me. I would also maybe throw Jarvion Howard in there as well, into the mix, and maybe even not Trey Oliver, excuse me. Why am I blanking on my man's name? Running back from Collier from North Carolina Central. Throw him in that mix, as well as 9 quarterback options to win the award. If we look at mine real quick as we move through the show, my Celebration Bowl, we talked about it, FAMU versus North Carolina Central. My SWAC championship game, I've actually got FAM and Texas Southern.
Okay.
there's something about Body, quarterback for Texas Southern. Andrew Body, the quarterback, he was the one who kept them in the race for the SWAC West last year. I think another year under his belt in that division. I think he's good enough to carry them through and do just enough, because that SWAC West is a hodgepodge of teams where everybody's kind of all the same. Now, who has that one guy who can separate you from the rest? And I think Andrew Body does that for Texas Southern.
It makes sense. That makes sense. We'll go ahead and go to your CIAA champs.
Virginia Union Byers. As long as he's healthy and toting the tater, that's the one for me. My SEAC champ, we can go with Tuskegee. Now, I don't know if you heard this.
I wonder why.
Listen, Mike, some people like offense. Some people like defense. Let me tell you about them Tuskegee Golden Tigers. They are built off of the punt game, Mike. We got an All-American punter, baby. We're going to flip the field. We're going to flip the field, baby. Let's go. I don't think anybody gets into the playoffs. I think Tennessee State still got some things to figure out. Hampton has a lot to figure out. I think with North Carolina A&T making a step up into a better football playing conference, if they were, which was great for them, they were a game away last year, but this is a much better football conference than the one they were in last year. So I think that it'll take them a while to get used to and adjusted to everybody in their new conference. And again, when you jump in conferences, you have to get ready for everybody. You have to re-prepare for everybody. They only have to prepare for you once. So you've got to prepare for 8 or 9 different opponents. They've only got to get acclimated to you once. So I think that matters. And my Deacon Jones trophy, Jeremy Musa, he was overshadowed at times last year, most of last year, because of what Shedeur was doing in the SWAC. But this is a guy who was third at the HBCU level in touchdown passes with 21, behind only Davius Richards and his 26, and Shedeur Sanders and his 40. That 40 is impressive. He was also second at the HBCU level, FCS HBCU level, in passing yards per game, behind only Shedeur Sanders. So there is no Shedeur. And I think Jeremy Musa, with that offensive line being a bit better than it was last year, let's be honest, much better than it was last year, and some skill position players around him, I think with time and the talent that the Florida A&M Rattlers have on the outside, I think that he's poised for a big year, Mike.
Hey, you know what? Jeremy is a good guy. He certainly was an affable personality at SWAC Media Day. He had a smile on his face. He knew who he was. Like I said, when we were there, FAMU walked into the room like they owned the place, and that this was their time. They just had a different air about them when you talk about Willie Simmons and Musa and the contingent that they had there. So I think this is their year. I went with my guy, Sundiata Anderson, only because Deacon Jones is a defensive dominant player. It's going to go to a defensive dominant guy. So Deacon would want Sundiata to win that thing, but Jeremy Musa is a fine candidate on the offensive side.
Let's go to our Culture Maker segment, Mike, the segment where we highlight people, corporations, and this week, HBCUs that are doing impressive things for the culture. North Carolina A&T is this week's Culture Maker. Study finds that A&T has about a $2.4 billion impact on North Carolina. Is based on 2017 data. A&T's impact was calculated at just under $1.5 billion. That's in 2017, 2018, and then they adjusted for 2023. The equivalent of, $2.4 billion, is the equivalent of about 17,000 jobs and $1.42 billion in added income. Right now, today, it is ranked 3rd best public HBCU and tied for 9th best HBCU in the nation per U.S. News and World Report. What does this say to you, Mike, about not just A&T's impact at the HBCU level or amongst their HBCU peers, but their impact on the state of North Carolina and their place amongst the great North Carolina academic higher institutions?
You know what? The only thing I question on that list right there, those bullet points, is the U.S. News and World Report rankings. I can't see A&T being 3rd best and 9th overall. Like that's ludicrous to me. I can't think of 8 better HBCUs when it comes pound for pound, program for program, experience for experience. That's got to be an antiquated ranking right there. I think they're a top 3 across the board in HBCU. And when you talk about the economic impact, what that university means for the city of Greensboro is everything. You also have UNC Greensboro there, but North Carolina A&T is the most diverse university in the state of North Carolina. They have that economic impact there. They're putting the most Black graduates in corporate positions across the field in the state of North Carolina and along that eastern seaboard right there. And they're the biggest public university, HBCU university, at almost 13,000, 14,000 students. So they continue to grow and they continue to have that kind of impact. And it's great that they did that study. That study was done from their doctoral candidates within the university. And I believe it. And I would love to see this kind of study done for other universities too, because that AU system in Atlanta is also impactful there when you talk about economic impact. Morris Brown, Spelman, Clark Atlanta. I want to see what they're doing in terms of impact for Atlanta. I would love to see Howard and what that means in DC, Morgan State, in Baltimore, Tennessee State, Tuskegee, Fisk. Not Tuskegee, but Tennessee State and Fisk in Nashville. Meharry. I would love to see what their collective footprint is in terms of economic impact. But great study for North Carolina A&T, a fabulous university. And they profess the greatest homecoming on earth, the GHO. And hey, I've never experienced it, but I got to get to a GHO at some point. While I still got some go in me, so I got to see what that GHO is about. Shout out to North Carolina A&T.
A couple of things real quick. One, I love the fact that when you were naming the schools in the triangle, Morris Brown, Spelman, Clark Atlanta, you left Morehouse off. That's the way you're supposed to do it. Two,
I started with Morehouse. You just didn't hear me.
No, did you start with Morehouse? Then never mind. I don't love that. You shouldn't have mentioned them at all. Two, I kid Morehouse. Love you guys. Imagine what would happen if North Carolina A&T was funded appropriately. They have this economic impact, and the state has underfunded them about $2 billion. Imagine what they could do for the state if they were properly funded, let alone the amounts of young people they could get educated and the way they could improve the life of all their students and faculty and getting facilities updated and upgraded. Imagine what they could do with that $2 billion and what that $2 billion would then do for the money that they are able to generate for not just the city of Greensboro, not just for North Carolina A&T, but for not only the entire state of North Carolina, but like you said, Mike, that eastern seaboard region, you'd be hard pressed to walk into a place of business, a major company, and not have a North Carolina A&T graduate there. And imagine what that could do for everybody involved.
Well said, man. Well said. I said my piece, and you doubled down on it, man. And again, that's what we can do when the communities come together, the students achieve, the programs are starting to do what they need to do. And just it was to your point real quick, to identify the historical disadvantage that a lot of these HBCUs have been under for decades and generations. And just look at what we've been able to do there for the last 30, 40 years, making up some of that. But you can never overcome $2 billion worth of short, right? So that's just imagine. It is. But we can definitely continue to build there and make impact. And kudos, like I said, to even produce that study and for it to get picked up and respected enough to be published nationally to that degree, that's a sign of respect for A&T and what they're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. That does it for this week's episode of HBCU Huddle. We'll be a week closer to college football, be a week closer to the Southern Heritage Classic. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for listening. For Mike, I'm
week
CJ.
Your favorite week of the season. Week 0 coming up next Saturday.
Let's just go. Play the music. I'm done.